Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight on Our News, the COVID-19 vaccine rollout ramps up with thousands of doses sent to the Family Islands. But first, a weekend party draws large crowds and huge concerns. And a rocky year for some students who still manage to excel. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, a crowded party causing concern as the country grapples with a third wave of the coronavirus. Jared Higgs tells us more.
We party it. We party it. We party it.
Video of a crowded party with hundreds of guests causing concern during the third wave.
Money pull up, girl. Money pull up. Money pull up. Yes, man.
In the video, hundreds of people crowd a courtyard and balcony at Bahama Barrows across from the Graycliff property. Our News reached out to Graycliff, and representatives there say the Bahama Barrows property is rented to a third party and inquiries about Sunday night should go to the third party. We tried to reach out to the party organizers by contacting the numbers on the flyers, but the people on the other end either said we had the wrong number or claimed the video was old and had nothing to do with the advertised event.
And they were telling people, like, look, the car downstairs getting crowded, y'all have to go upstairs and stuff like that, you know, for the COVID police coming to be an issue.
The guests agreed to speak to us if we disguised their voice. They say the event was kept private.
You buy the ticket, and then they give you some number, the WhatsApp, and they were saying the location. So nobody knew the location of the place until they bought a ticket. And then people also were able to come, obviously, when they found out the location was, and buy tickets at the door.
That guest also says that police came and shut the party down. The video comes as the country grapples with a third wave of the virus. Hospitalizations hover at around 50, half the country's capacity, according to Minister of Health Renwood Wells. But healthcare workers say they're already being stretched. This resident was shocked when we showed her video of the event.
Well, that's too much people to be at one gathering. It is ridiculous. But we have social distancing right now, and they don't look like they have on any masks. So what's going to be done about that?
Vaccinations were recently opened up for anybody over the age of 18, demonstrating the unwillingness of many older Bahamians to take the jab. With herd immunity still a long ways off and adherence to virus rules slipping, we asked this government worker if she was worried.
Of course I'm concerned, because then those same people will come to where I work or the food store I attend, and what happens then?
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, Our News understands the space is leased by Julian Believe. However, he tells our news team that the event was not his. Well, the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccinations in the Family Islands began today. This as residents 18 and older are now eligible for the jab. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, United States Embassy and Ministry of Health officials today sending off the first aircraft deployed to the Family Islands for the full rollout of the vaccine in the country. Vaccine Committee Chair Dr. Merceline Dahl-Regis says at least one site is already fully booked.
I think it's a great opportunity for the staff to go to the people in the Family Islands, and I think they will be well received in the Family Islands. It's an exciting time to be able to do this. But there's been a steady uptake with appointment making.
More than 25,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine have been administered in the country so far. Well, the newly announced perks for fully vaccinated people come with some level of risk, according to health officials. Jillian Gray has that.
It's a move that has some breathing a sigh of relief, gathering without a mask for dining or events. While the science is promising and showing signs that fully vaccinated people can enjoy some reduced restrictions, it's not without risk, according to Dr. Nakia Forbes, who says even fully vaccinated people would have to be careful of who they associate with.
It doesn't mean that you throw all caution to the wind, that if you're fully vaccinated and you're gathering with a lot of people indoors, if they are unvaccinated or even, in the case of vaccinations, that you can still get COVID-19 and the transmissibility is lessened.
According to the CDC, a fully vaccinated household can mix with another household, even if the other household is not fully vaccinated. They'll just have to ensure that household is low risk for severe illness from COVID-19. Dr. Merceline Dalregis says they are now looking at the science to determine testing for vaccinated people.
Now, the new guidelines, CDC guidelines, and what's coming out of the European guidelines, that once you're fully vaccinated, you are protected. Further to that, the transmissibility of the virus, they haven't documented that it doesn't occur, but it does not produce significant illness.
As of May 1st, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says international travelers who have been fully vaccinated won't have to test for COVID-19 to enter the country. According to the CDC, fully vaccinated travelers are less likely to get and spread COVID-19. However, international travel poses additional risks, and even fully vaccinated travelers are at increased risk for getting and possibly spreading new COVID-19 variants.
It could be a good idea with emerging variants and what we're seeing with emerging variants until we have better information about the effectiveness of some vaccines against these variants or even boosters, to consider still having some degree of precautions like testing associated with higher risk travel, like international travel, especially to destinations where there are variants.
Now, Dr. Forbes says the relaxed restrictions may be an incentive for some to get the vaccine, but for right now, everyone should just remain cautious and continue to follow health guidelines. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Well, 35-year-old Laderia Russell today pleading not guilty to another 50 counts of forgery in relation to false COVID-19 test results, bringing the total number of charges against her to 160. It's alleged that Russell forged a Doctors Hospital Health System negative COVID-19 RT-PCR test, purporting the same to be genuine between November 25th, 2020 and March 21st, 2021. Russell pleaded not guilty to all charges. Last week, she was granted $40,000 bail with 2 or 3 sureties. Her trial date is set for August 24th, 25th, and 26th at 10 a.m. Her bail is to continue. And while there have been several confirmed cases of COVID-19 at public schools on New Providence, Education Director Marcellus Taylor says the Ministry of Education is not worried and has no immediate plans to revert to online learning. Jasmine Brown reports.
Today, we are not worried about the cases that we have seen because we do not feel that it's spreading within the school, and we don't feel that it's a situation of outbreaks.
That's Education Director Marcellus Taylor's assessment of COVID-19 cases popping up in public schools. Last week, suspected COVID-19 cases were reported at 7 government schools on New Providence. Additionally, 5 students and staff members at various schools tested positive for the virus in the last few weeks. Taylor says the ministry is monitoring the situation daily.
We feel that it's getting to an unsafe level for us to entertain the face-to-face. Then we will consider, or the hybrid as we're doing in New Providence, then we will consider reverting.
Over the weekend, the Bahamas surpassed 10,000 cases of COVID-19 in what health officials have determined is a third wave. Taylor says an increase of confirmed COVID cases among the school population is not unexpected, given the surge in cases in the country.
I was just informed of a positive case in Central Andros, which developed the positive result was provided last night, I think, by the clinic in Central Andros. That's at the Central Andros High School. I got a call this morning about a case at the Anatole Rogers School, and that case is being addressed, and the appropriate protocols are being dealt with. And then we have a third case that I just found out about at the D.W. Davis School.
As it relates to reverting to strictly online learning at New Providence schools, Taylor says the ministry is hoping to avoid that scenario.
Our preferred model for instruction is face-to-face. Even though the ministry has gone and provided a lot of tablets and a lot of resources and even printed materials for those who didn't have internet access, we know that when we are not face-to-face, the the engagement by students is not as high as it would ordinarily be.
Now, Taylor says the Ministry of Education will continue to monitor those schools where active cases were confirmed. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, mostly sunny skies in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christine, and a good evening, everybody. A warm evening on the outside as the frontal boundary that moves through the capital is now towards the south. Temperatures are mild, 76 degrees outside our studios with a few clouds. We're calling it breezy because the winds are out of the northeast at 11 knots, and your field light temperature also in the mid to upper 70s. Satellite view, as I mentioned, a frontal boundary moving through the northwest Bahamas. Most of the energy is out towards the east, but that frontal boundary will continue to sag towards the south and continue to weaken. Beautiful conditions expected outside our studios and the rest of the Bahamas tonight. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, 4 juveniles charged with murder and why the F&M says it won't participate in an upcoming debate. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Four juveniles were charged in the magistrate's court with 2 separate murders. Bethany McDermott was there and has the details.
A 16-year-old today facing 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm with the intent to endanger life. The defendant, seen with the plaid green blanket covering his head, was charged with the December 31, 2020 death of Frederick Dames at Wilson Track in New Providence. It's alleged that on the same day, the juvenile attempted to cause the death of Tamiko Sweeting and Thurvins Olbrice. He was not required to enter a plea and was remanded to the Simpson Penn School for Boys until June 8th. Meanwhile, the other 3 juveniles were charged with 1 count of murder. The trio were charged together with the April 19, 2020 killing of Wade Cargill. Police say shortly after 4 a.m. that morning, a man was discovered unresponsive on the side of the street at Collins Avenue and 6th Terrace. The juveniles were not required to enter a plea to the charge and were remanded to the Simpson Penn School for Boys until June 15th. As the teens were being escorted into the court, family members gathered expressing outrage. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
In other news, the University of the Bahamas responding tonight after Free National Movement Chair Carl Culmer said the party will not participate in the upcoming debate series. Kyle Joaquin has the story.
The assertion that political debates should be held after the House of Assembly is dissolved and an election date called is troubling.
Tonight, the F&M under fire after the party's chairman says it will not take part in a debate series by the University of the Bahamas. Carl Culmer in a statement saying after initially considering, there were too many factors that persuaded the party to no longer take part, like only one media group responsible for broadcasting the event and the fact that the House of Assembly has yet to be dissolved. The statement read, upon closer scrutiny of documentation and written proposals submitted by the proposers of the debate, a number of critical defects in the proposed format of debates were identified by the F&M campaign committee, who so advised the chairman. Culmer continued saying, upon review of the practices in both our Caribbean region and in Canada and the United Kingdom, it also became clear that the proposed format of the debates was a great departure from the standards set in other jurisdictions, each of which hails from the Westminster system. Now, this isn't the first time that UB set up this kind of debate, but organizers say they were just shocked that the governing party flat out said no. The debate series is scheduled to begin next month with a number of debates, which would include youth representatives and others from 7 political organizations. PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell says although the F&M is out, the PLP is still on board.
We want to make it clear the Progressive Liberal Party wants a debate. We think that a debate ought to take place between the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister.
Many social media users were not too keen on news that the governing party would not participate, with one user saying, "We're not in Jamaica or Canada. Are you afraid?" Meanwhile, another wrote, "I don't want to see them commenting on these debates on talk shows either. Get in the game if you want to play." Christopher Curry, one of the co-moderators for the debate and associate professor of history at UB, says even if the prime minister doesn't wish to debate, the party can send someone else as a representative.
And it was based on constant feedback and the kind of consensus building that we got from the other parties that led us to change our format. And that we buy-in even from our legacy party in the PLP. They agreed to join the new format. It's only the FNM that is taking issue with the new format.
Curry and Beyond the Headlines host Clint Watson were tapped as moderators for at least one of the debates. Curry says the show will still go on with the format subject to change to make all parties as comfortable as possible.
Right now we're running with 4 thematic debates that are absolutely fair in every way, shape, and form.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
When our news comes back from the break, more government services go virtual, and Marcellus Hall has the hottest sports highlights. The details after this.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. The Port Department is the next government agency to join the government's online platform, making it easier to do business in the Bahamas. Giorgio Bain reports.
Doing business with the Port Department is about to become a whole lot easier as of Monday, May 3rd. That's the first day customers will be able to register a host of watercrafts using the Port Department's new digital platform. Minister of Transport and Local Government Deandre Folks listing the newly available services during Monday's press conference.
With the click of a mouse will allow customers to complete applications, register private and commercial boats or watercrafts, such as jet skis and parasails. Customers will be able to apply for an A or B class master's license and apply for a D class operator's license.
Customers will also be able to upload documents and receive emails directly from port officials, limiting the need for face-to-face interaction.
Register a marine structure, such as a private, commercial, or industrial dock, and apply for a foreign yacht charter service.
Phase 2 will also allow users to create a profile and track their online applications.
Customers will be able to access all Port Department applications digitally by logging on to www.bahamas.gov.bs/port.
According to Minister of State for Finance Kwesi Thompson, the government is still expecting to have some 200 services uploaded in the coming months. Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
In sports tonight, both Deandre, Ayton, and Buddy Hield taking a loss in Sunday's NBA action. Marcellus Hall has the highlights.
All right, thanks a lot, Christina, and welcome to our sports on a Monday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The NBA playoff push is in full gear now because the NBA season is starting to wind down. 2 NBA stars going in different directions. One is headed towards the playoffs. The other one is headed towards ending their season whenever regular season goes down. Let's take a look now and see exactly how both players did as they both were in action on a Sunday. Deandre Ayton, Phoenix Suns on the road taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Suns sitting in second place in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, the Nets in first place over there in the East. Pretty good matchup all the way through. But unfortunately, it would be the Nets getting the win here, 128-119. As for Deandre, he had a pretty good ball game. Played 32 minutes, had 20 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals on the day. Like we said, though, it would come in a losing effort as the Suns go down. They remain in second place over there in the East, in the Western Conference. Taking a look at what's next for the Phoenix Suns. Their next game comes your way tonight when they take on the New York Knicks. Buddy Hield, Sacramento Kings, going up against the Golden State Warriors. Kings going pretty poorly these days. They're in 12th place in the Western Conference. Golden State on the verge of being in the play-in, and let's see how this one went down. Pretty good game all throughout, but Golden State gets the win here, 117-113. How about our guy, Buddy? As far as he was concerned, he had a pretty good game statistically. 36 minutes on the floor, 20 points overall, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal on the day. Now, taking a look at what's ahead now for Sacramento. Their next game will come your way later on this week. Taking a look at who they'll be matching up against. Kings will be playing on the road once again, as they'll be hosting a game against the Dallas Mavericks. That game comes your way tonight as well. We'll give you full details on that coming up for you tomorrow. And so there it is, your check on sports for you this Monday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Christina.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
A look at the weather with Greg Thompson is still ahead, plus the Ministry of Education awards top achievers. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Looks like mostly sunny and pleasant conditions ahead. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks again, Christina, and a happy Monday evening, everybody. Frontal boundary now pushing into the central Bahamas with some isolated showers along its western edge, the easternmost portion of that frontal boundary into the open Atlantic. Most of the energy out there. A couple isolated showers across the Lustra and the Cat Island area. That frontal boundary will continue to side towards the south. High pressure will build across us. That will generate our weather for the next couple of days with mostly stable conditions and slightly cooler temperatures. Boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. We have a caution flag posted for you boaters. Winds will be northeast to east at 15 to 20 knot, seas running 4 to 6 feet over the open waters. While in the southeast Bahamas, those winds will be northeasterly at 15 knot, seas running 3 to 5 feet. High tide will be at 7:44 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Saturday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. Well, the 2019-2020 academic year was relatively rough due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That didn't stop some students from achieving top marks on last year's national exams. Our Jasmine Brown caught up with 2 of those high schoolers.
Meet 17-year-old Kamori Sawyer and 14-year-old Shirkaden Wells. Both teens are high school students at Queen's College and both were recognized as some of the top performers at the Ministry of Education's Examination and Assessment Division National Awards presentation. Sawyer, who sat BGCSEs, received 13 A's.
It wasn't easy, of course, with the pandemic and everything, but it required a lot of studying, a lot of hard work, so doing practice papers, taking extra classes. What also was important was finding a balance so that I didn't overwhelm myself.
Wells sat a dozen BJCs and scored 12 A's.
There was a lot of motivation behind it. Everything is mostly mental. You just have to want it. And my teachers, they were always there to help me if I had any questions. They had extra classes, and my mom, she would stay up at like ungodly hours of the night just to help me study.
Both Wells and Sawyer sat those national exams during a roller coaster year for learning after the country's first case of COVID-19 was confirmed on March 15, 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic put a halt to in-person learning. Public and private schools scrambled to make the best of it on virtual platforms. The national exams were postponed from early summer to September 14th through October 2nd. Both teens say while it was a tumultuous time, they were determined to do their best.
It was different. My teacher still made sure everything was okay and that I would understand even though we weren't in person. It was just having to adapt to the changes so that you didn't get left behind, basically.
I wanted to keep everything as normal as possible, so I didn't really let the method of teaching affect me. So I still studied from my books, and instead of just going to a teacher's class like you would if you were in physical, I just emailed them or asked them questions through Zoom or other platforms like that.
Sawyer and Wells were among dozens of high school students recognized during the MOE's virtual ceremony this morning. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, only a handful of students and their family members were allowed to attend the event. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas. A new episode of the RTV original Where in the World is Wally is back at 8:30.